Hey guys, welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk about all things thriller books, which is exactly what we're going to do today, like times 10. I have been so excited to do this spooky season reading vlog because not only are we going to read some of the best spooky thriller autumn vibe books in this vlog, we're also going to go and do like some spooky things as well. I've got like a cute like pottery painting date booked in. I'm going to go autumn shopping for books and like for more decor, and it's just going to be vibes. Like if you're in the Halloween and autumn mood, you're gonna love it. So I've pulled together quite a big list of like all the best like thriller books that are like set at this time of year, or like just the best books to read at this time of year. But there is so many recommendations that like it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I have like a rough list of books I'm gonna work to, but I may chop and change, so I'm not gonna declare them now. I'm just gonna start. But sometimes when I really cannot decide on what to read next, I order a box of stories, and I want to talk to you about these guys because they've just released a Halloween box. So a box of stories is actually how I started my reading journey about 3 years ago now, because I just had no idea like what I wanted to read, and I bought their like mixed box just to like get a feel of like different genres, and I ended up reading The Last Act by Brad Parks. Absolutely loved it, and realised there's this whole area of like thriller books that I wasn't making the most of and that could dive into. A box of stories are a book subscription box which sends out books that like aren't bestsellers but are really highly rated, and it's a complete surprise what you're going to get in your box. Also, a box of stories are very sustainable, and they donate like a slice of their profits to literacy charities every month, so you're kind of like going full circle and giving back whilst doing it. So when they reached out and wanted to send me their Halloween box, I was like, who the hell am I to say no to this? On a highway to Halloween. There's also a little coaster and some little cute bookmarks as well. And then for the books themselves, I have not seen these until this very moment, so I'm extremely excited. So the first book is called A Good House for Children, and it is a haunted house story. So it's about a woman who moves into this like really abandoned, spooky like mansion on a cliffside. And then it's also about a woman who like 4 decades earlier like faced the same problem. It's kind of giving like Sundown Motel in terms of like the dual timelines and the spooky happenings. Oh my god, how gorgeous is this? And it follows this woman who becomes like a governess of this like mansion house situation after her grandmother passes, and it literally says, many would find much to fear in Finshade's dark corridors, but not I, for it has more to fear from me. Goals. So both these books sound absolutely amazing, but I will just caveat this by, if you do order yourself the box of stories box, there are different books in every box, so I cannot guarantee that these are the books that you will receive. And also there is a 20% off code in the description if you would like to grab yourself a box of stories as like a Halloween treat, so be sure to check it out if you're interested, and let's carry on with the rest of the vlog. So I'm definitely going to come back to A Good House for Children like during this vlog and read that one as well. I feel like that one like caught my attention the most. However, I did want to start this vlog with like an absolute classic in the spooky season like book talk booktube world, because I have been so excited to read this that I can't stop myself. It's time, guys, it has to be time. And of course the book that I'm talking about is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I have never heard a bad word about this book, so I just had to read it this year. I actually bought this a few months ago and have been saving it, especially to read on a spooky season vlog for you guys. So this follows a woman called Vivian who works at the Sundown Motel. One night she just goes missing after like a load of creepy like episodes, and then I think a couple of decades later, Carly, her niece, goes like back to the Sundown Motel to like try and investigate and see like what happened to her aunt. Even though she didn't know her, she just feels like drawn to the place. I feel like this does have some paranormal elements, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for like spooky season, but if you are through and through a thriller, I will obviously let you guys know like what the combination of that is. I think this is mainly a thriller like with some horror elements, but of course I could be wrong. So I am going to read this one first and dive in, and then I will keep you guys updated. Also, how cute is this? A little ghost pillow, and also you can use it as like a little bookrest. Works really well because he's got like a little pumpkin, so he holds open the page for you. So I'm 80 pages in, and my first and pretty much only word that I can use to describe this book is tense. Now I think it may be a little bit to do with the fact that I'm reading this on a train late at night when it's kind of spooky anyway, or like in bed with the lights off, so I feel like that's definitely adding to the vibe, but like in an amazing way. So it's really showing the setup so far. We know exactly what happened to Viv 35 years ago, or we think we do, and then Carly is going to like investigate. She's super curious as to like exactly what's gone on, and she's just convinced there's a lot more to it. So while she's in Fell as well, she's decided to room with this girl who lived where her aunt lived. 35 years ago, and I just feel like that's a bit sus. She's like made friends with her and they're like investigating together, and I'm thinking, girl, I got your card marked. So of course we'll absolutely keep you updated. This is a perfect spooky read so far, and in the meantime, Bookmail. I know at least 2 or 3 of these are like spooky themed, and that's why I was like, I'm just gonna come on the vlog and tell you what I got. So firstly, the Works have very kindly sent me like some of their like Halloween decorations and crafts. They were like, do you want them? And I was like, obviously. This is literally my weekend sorted. Got some little pumpkin tea lights, a wooden garland that you can paint or not paint, that is going straight on my bookshelves, and the best bit, they've sent me a sew your own pumpkins set. So best believe I'm going to be listening to the audiobook of Sundown Motel while I'm making this weekend. So I'm hoping this is a book that I've been after for so long, and the publisher actually reached out to say would I like to go to like the launch event of it in paperback. I unfortunately was on holiday so I couldn't go, but they were like, do you want a copy? And I was like, yes please. Okay, so I'm going to give you some clues and you can try and guess before I actually reveal the book. This is the first clue. This is the second clue. Oh, so excited to read this, guys. This has had so many good reviews. Never gotten around to it. And the book is, listen for the lie. I'll pop the American cover here because I feel like I'm seeing more of the American cover of this book than I am the British one, because I prefer the American one as well, so I feel like people have been using that in their wrap-ups. So this is what it looks like with the red cover, and then this is obviously the British cover. It was only out in hardback and it's literally just been released in paperback. You guys know I'm not a massive hardback fan, so perfect. And then I got the winner from HarperCollins because I've been seeing this and I've been reading a lot of like reality TV show thriller at the moment, and this is about 12 people who win this like fame and fortune lottery, and they basically just have to live like their best lives but put it on social media, and then the ones who have like the least views and the least rankings like get eliminated or get into trouble. I don't know, but it just sounded really good. Let me know if you've read this. I haven't heard loads of people talking about it, but the concept just sounded amazing. And then finally, in this nice red envelope, I'm not sure what this is. Oh, amazing. This is Steve Kavanagh's latest book. You guys, I read Kill for Me, Kill for You recently and loved it. Straight 5-star. And Steve reached out to me and was like, would you like a copy of my latest book? And I was like, yeah, yes, please. Like, I would absolutely love that. Oh, he signed it as well. So that's my little mini book haul. If you've read any of those, let me know. And if there's one that you'd like me to read like quicker, also let me know. I had the most lovely time pottery painting, and I ended up doing like a spooky like witch's cauldron as well, so I'm hoping I can pick that up before this vlog ends so I can like actually show you the finished result. I mean, imagine drinking my morning coffee out of a little cauldron. And then I thought as well I could use it as like a little plant holder when like it's not spooky season, so it's like a double whammy. So Sundown Motel, my thoughts on this so far are that it was a little bit slow to start, and I did have a little bit of trouble like defining both of these timelines. So Viv was in the 80s and Carly is like present day, like 2017, and I feel like their voices are quite similar. And I don't know whether that's just me, but that's kind of how it reads. And also like the actual journeys that they're going on are quite similar as well. So there's a few characters which I'm thinking like, was that a Viv character or a Carly character? That could very much be me, like not paying enough attention. Like I feel like if I gave this 100% attention, that would not be a problem, but that's just not really how my life works. But it isn't a complicated concept to understand, so I will caveat by saying that. This book was so spooky to start as well. Definitely read like the first 80 or so pages with the lights on, like not late at night in your room, like genuinely. But after that, the spookiness kind of like calms down a bit, and it is more like a mystery thriller after that. And I feel like I now understand exactly why people recommend this for this time of year, because it isn't a ghost story, like it isn't a horror, but it is a thriller, but a spooky one. I don't really know how to categorize this. So I only actually have about maybe 30% of this left now. I have been flying through it over the last couple of days, and I'm going to hopefully finish this today and give you guys a full update. I also had my hair cut yesterday and it feels like super short. I so needed it, like so badly. My hair needed a cut, and now obviously it's got like the nice little blunt ends, but yeah, RIP. Oh my god, that plot twist. Incredible. So happy. Over the moon. Still have 30 pages left. Speechless. I completely get why this is the it book of autumn. I get it. I get it, girlies. I've just stayed up way too late to finish this. It is way too late than I care to admit when I'm filming this. Hence the hoodie and just like the comfy vibes I'm coming to you with right now. But like, I just had to get my thoughts out to you guys right now when I finish the book. Otherwise, it's just not the same the next day. So this is what I thought. As I said in the last clip, I did find it a little bit tricky to get my head around Viv and Carly's characters, like towards the beginning, because they're basically both trying to investigate disappearances from the Sundown Motel. The voices are kind of similar, so they're both written from like a similar age. They're like at similar stages in their life. They're kind of running, both of them, from things or to things, and I just feel like even the like supporting characters were similar, and this was, I don't know, it was a little bit tricky for me, that. Also, like, the start of this book set the tone that it was going to be like really paranormal heavy, but it actually wasn't. Like, I would definitely just class this as like a mystery thriller with like a small paranormal element. So if you're just like a thriller reader and just don't really particularly want to dive into horror, there's like one chapter that's like spooky AF, like would read with the lights on. Apart from that, I don't know, I think you're good. Like, it was the vibes, but definitely not overkill, if that makes sense. And in terms of like plot twists, there was 3 separate occasions, because I counted, where my jaw literally just dropped and I was like, oh my god. If I thought about it hard enough, I probably could have anticipated the twist, but I was literally just having such a good time with this. I was like, don't think about it too much and just like enjoy the journey with this one, and that's definitely like how it's best read. I also absolutely loved the ending. The ending of this book was perfect. Everybody got what they deserved, and that just really makes or breaks a book for me. Like, everyone really got what they deserved. There was happy ending for the characters that deserved it, and like justice for the characters that didn't. It was just brilliant. So I ended up giving it 4.5. And I don't really have any more drawbacks apart from the fact that I did get a little bit muddled with the characters, but I don't know whether that's a me thing. It probably deserves a 5-star from most people. I think a lot of readers would give this 5-star, but for me personally, I think it was a 4.5. It just didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but it was an absolutely fantastic book and I absolutely would recommend it. So the next book that I'm going to read in this vlog is one that took me so long to get my hands on a copy of that if I don't read it in this vlog, it would just be absolutely criminal, basically. And it is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. So this is the same author that wrote Bird Box, which has been turned into a movie, and that is how I'd like heard of this author, his books, his stories to start with. But then this book specifically has just been really, really popular over like book review platforms, like all of them. But it is only published in America, so I had to try very, very hard to get my hands on a copy. I ended up getting it from Blackwell's, which is like a UK bookshop, but they do tend to do this, like sometimes they do get like American exclusives, and I think I was just really lucky. There was only like 2 left in stock, and because I'd been checking all the time, like on all the platforms, I just managed to get my hands on a copy. I bought this myself. I tried to ask the publishers and couldn't even find anybody that knew about it, so good luck if you're trying to get your hands on a copy. So instead, I bring to you what I really think of this book. When I finish it, I will let you know whether it's worth the hassle of trying to get this book. And I will also pop some links in the description of this video on places you can go and try and get it if you're interested. So this book is written from the perspective of an 8-year-old, which I think is really interesting to start with. And this 8-year-old, she lives with her mum and dad. She's just like a normal kind of kid. And then basically she has this person who hides in her closet called Other Mummy. Now, I think this book is going to be like actually scary. I mean, I've never read a book that's actually scared me, but I feel like there's a first time for everything. So I'm going to caveat this by showing you the first page in the first chapter of this book, and I think you can understand why I may be scared. Also, which is really interesting because it's written from a child's point of view, like the actual words on the page are quite like sparse, and like it's written as if a child's actually speaking like in their dialogue and from their thought process, which, yeah, I'm gonna let you know what I think about that. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna feel. Because apparently I'm an absolute psychopath, I'm literally reading this in the pitch black with a little light on. You know, just to add to the vibes. Hey friends, I'm actually just putting the dust jacket back on this book because I don't know about anyone else, but I always take it off when I'm actually sat reading it. So anyway, I'm about halfway through Incidents Around the House now, and I am enjoying it so far, but I do have a few notes. But firstly, as maybe you can tell from my voice, I feel like I'm getting ill again. I'm not feeling well tonight, so the plan is literally just to sit and finish this book and just like have some me time. So hopefully I'll feel a little bit better after that. I also have a Lem Sip and a Barocca in this little ghost mug. So I feel like we're really fitting the vibes. I also just spotted this guy. Anyway, book updates. So our female main character Bella, who is 8 years old, is narrating this book, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly. I've had to dip in and out of other books whilst reading this because I feel like the 8-year-old's point of view is getting a little bit like monotonous for me. It's very like accurately done and very well portrayed, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not sure this like fits my reading style. Maybe I'm just not like diverse enough of a reader. However, we are making like actual progress with the plot now. So until I'm about page 110, until this point, literally the synopsis is literally all that's happened, to be honest. So Bella's seen this woman called like the mummy, the parents don't believe her, and then it's got to the point where the parents actually kind of like believe her now. Like spoiler free, of course. And now they're like trying to work out what it is or what they're gonna do. So now the like tension and the pace has definitely picked up a bit. I'm like a lot more invested. This first 100 pages or so has taken me a little bit of time to get into, but now like the book is in a good flow, so it's definitely one that I am going to keep going with, and I feel like it will just get better as we go now. We've been introduced to the characters. So I'm about 300 pages in, about 50 pages away from the end, so I thought I'd give like a little update before I end up finishing it, and probably the plot twist blows me away and I'm like, oh my god, that was amazing, because I don't think it is as amazing as people are saying. Like, I'm still not really fully invested in this plot line. Like, the pace has quickened, don't get me wrong, like it definitely has, but it's just like a classic horror film. Like, there's not really as much thriller to this as I expected. It feels just like a through and through thriller movie. Like, it's reading very much like a film, so if you're into those kind of books, it will definitely appeal to you, but I just don't think it's what I expected. I don't know, maybe that is just, maybe it's my expectation going in as to why I'm not like 100% team 5-star on this book yet, but I'll let you know if it redeems itself. Morning friends, I am coming to you from the car this morning because after I finished the book last night, I literally fell straight asleep, and I don't think that reflects on the book. I think that just reflects on like my lifestyle and how tired I get. So I did indeed finish Incidents Around the House. So I'm going to tell you what I thought of this now, because I'm going to start my next book like right now, like today, like as an audio in the car, because I'm going to be driving around a little bit today. So firstly, Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. What did I think? Yes, no, maybe. I'm going to go with no. So as a caveat for my thriller girls, like myself, this is definitely horror, not thriller, okay? So The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James was like thriller, but horror elements. This was just horror with like, kind of like action and tension, but not really thriller. But that doesn't mean it was really bad. It just means it wasn't like to my style. If I was like an actual horror reader, I feel like this would have been good. So long story short, it was a basic concept of like possession. If you went to watch a horror film at the cinema, like around Halloween, this is probably what you'd get. So I will also say that this would make a fantastic film, like an incredible film, I have no doubt. And I know this author, Josh Malerman, his book Bird Box has obviously been turned into the film Bird Box, which was a very, very highly rated film. Everybody loved it, so I have no doubt that if this was turned into a film too, it would be good. But for me, I couldn't get past the writing coming from an 8-year-old or 5-year-old. I'm still unsure how old she was. I've seen multiple people talk about her as different ages. But because of this like point of view, there was no quotation marks for speech. Now, this riled me, and I completely understand why the authors like made this like this full poetic license to do this. However, it just didn't hit for me. I don't know if anyone else has read Normal People by Sally Rooney. It was kind of those vibes. There was like no punctuation basically in the whole book, like a little bit, but just like it's literally as if a child was writing it. She's like literally saying what she sees or what she hears, as opposed to it being written normally. And then not only that, I maybe could have seen past that like a little bit, but the mum in this book, the actual mum, was just an absolute piece of shit, to be honest. Like, she was a horrible person, like just who she was as a person, not necessarily what she did. But then she also like, the parents like trauma dumped all over Bella. Like, I'm not surprised that like someone was haunting her. Do you know what I mean? Like, this poor girl, like what else could go wrong for her? Parents would like sit on the end of her bed when she was asleep and like just fully trauma dump, and like she wasn't always asleep. Like sometimes she was awake and then like she's worried through the night, and I don't know, it was just horrible. And then finally, the last reason why I probably wouldn't recommend this, the ending was super ambiguous. So last night when I finished this, I was literally sat on Reddit for about half an hour, like trying to understand what happened. And all that gave me was people's interpretations of the ending. So I was like, oh, maybe you're not supposed to understand. Maybe you are supposed to just make your own interpretation. I think I do now understand like what the author intended to happen. But like there's all these theories about how, as I said, like the parents trauma dump all over Bella, how this could be like a manifestation of like all of that. and I feel like those are the people that did like an English degree and want to like proper analyse the text, and I'm just here like, no, but what actually happened? So the positives of this book, believe it or not, there were some positives, was the concept was really easy to follow, and around the halfway mark to maybe like the 80% mark, there was a lot of like fast-paced like tension that was building, which I really, really enjoyed. It was like really quick, there was a lot of like running, a lot of what should we do next, and I just personally love that. I love when the book like starts to just like build like that. So that bit was really good. So honestly, I'm still not sure what to rate this because it was just so not what I was expecting. I just don't know if I can rate it compared to like everything else that I have in my backlist. But those are my key takeaways, and I'm gonna have a think and I'll let you know in the next few clips what I ended up giving it. But I will just say, main takeaway, this was not worth the weeks and weeks and weeks of trying to track down this book from America. It was also not worth the £20 price tag, but that again is just my personal opinion. I know a lot of actual horror readers loved this, like loved it straight 5-star. So it depends like what you're into. So next up in our spooky vlog, I'm going to go back to my roots, who I know is just gonna impress me. And that of course is Riley Sager, and the last book that I have to read on his backlist, Final Girls. But I've checked and this is definitely a thriller, but it's got like the perfect like spooky twist. So I feel like we're going to be in a really good place with this one. And of course, I love this author. So even if I don't like the concept, I know I'll like the writing. So this follows our main character, Quincy, who was the survivor of like a massacre in the woods, like a really traumatic event. And then as I understand it, there's like a few other final girls who also survived like these other traumatic events, like the same thing basically. And then I think one of them's unalive like years and years later, so the others like come together and understand like what are we gonna do, like are they after us next, etc, etc. So it's like, it feels like a final girl of the final girls. But like this book is set in Manhattan, there's no paranormal elements as far as I'm aware. I really hope there isn't after the last book, but I feel like this is going to be a really good one, and just like, yeah, perfect for September. So I have started this, like read a couple of chapters just to make sure that it was going to be like the best book for me to read next, and I definitely do think it is. The female main character is like likable, not likable, and I love that, to be honest. Like she's likable and relatable, but she's also kind of a bitch, is what I'm getting. But I mean, you kind of would be if you've been through all that trauma, wouldn't you really? So I have a few errands to run today and like a few appointments, so I feel like I'm going to get a good way through this book, so I'll keep you updated. I managed to get all my errands done like super quick, and I'm meeting a friend for brunch in like 3 hours. So you know what that means. We're gonna go look at some books, look at the spooky decks, and make this the spooky vlog that I intended it to be. I read this before I was even a reader, but look how much nicer this cover is. I'll find the old one and put it here, but I would totally pick this up now. I've literally been waiting for this to come out in paperback. I remember seeing this in hardback and being like, the second that comes out in paperback, I'm gonna get it. It's £5.50. So I had a quick look at the books in Asda, and I got Geneva, which I'm really excited to read. When this came out in hardback, I was like, I'm immediately going to get this. So now it's out in paperback, double whammy. Also had a look at the spooky bits in B&M, and I didn't buy anything because I feel like they're all the same everywhere you go, and I have to have like some level of self-control. Like the little ghost mug, I already have one very similar. I was tempted with the little skull plants because I feel like they would look good on my bookshelf like all year round, but I was good, okay? I was good. I did it. I got these. Damn, Quincy. My girl needs to chill. Oh my god. She's lost her mind. Guys, I've had to come on and give you like an update on Final Girls. So a lot of people have said this is like their least favourite Riley Sager book, but I'm absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it, okay? So far, obviously completely spoiler free, our main character has reunited with one of the other final girls, and they're kind of like dealing with their trauma together. I personally, again, no spoilers, get the feeling that the other final girl is not there for the honest reasons that she's saying, like a bit of a weird set of circumstances as to like why she's turning up. I also have my theories on who the actual person was who did this harm to our main character Quincy in the first place. So I'll tell you at the end of the vlog if I was like correct on that or not, because I think it's really interesting, even though like it's not me revealing the spoiler, as to whether I could guess it. So I'll like make a mental lock of my theory and tell you if it's right. But yeah, our main girl has just absolutely lost her head. I mean, you've been a victim of like a massacre, and all these like other emotions are now coming back up like years and years later. Like you would kind of lose your head, but like I think more than is acceptable. But to be honest, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I feel like there's a really good pace to this book. There's really good like level of tension and like build up. I think I'm at 55%, so I'm only just over halfway through, but this book is on the longer side. I think it's 420, 450-ish pages, so that's probably why it's taking me like a little bit longer to read, but yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. I think as well it's like this author's writing that just really gets me. Like, I just absolutely love the way that Riley Sager writes. The only thing that I would, you know, tiny thing, would be shorter chapters. There are some very long chapters in this, not actually counted the amount of pages because I'm scared, but if the chapters were slightly shorter that would work. I mean, they're putting like flashbacks within chapters instead of like having them as their own chapter, so maybe that's what's making it like feel a bit longer than it is. But yeah, I'll keep reading it and keep you updated. This girl is crazy. She's crazy. I have finished Final Girls, finally, no pun intended. And do you know what? I honestly have no idea why this book isn't more popular and why it has so many like mixed and negative reviews. I do feel like reading this in autumn has definitely made the experience like a lot more enjoyable. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like if I read this in like spring or like a time where everyone is like very excited and you want to read like cute light books, then it might not have the same effect, but it just absolutely, it hit for me. There were so many like creepy moments, shocking moments. Like, it was just really a big autumn vibe. I absolutely loved the characters in this. Like, Quincy, our main girl, fire, absolute fire. I love that girl. Like, that is true character development, like, absolutely. And I also loved her like cop friend who was there on the night of her massacre as well, and I liked him. Controversially. I also don't feel like it's as slow paced as a lot of reviewers have said. Like, that's the main like negatives about this book, are people saying like it's really slow, like I couldn't get into it. And I don't think it was like, I wouldn't describe it as like super fast paced, but I also wouldn't think it was slow enough that I would like make a comment on it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it was just like a medium paced, normal paced book. I did like the ending. It was very fitting for the situation and it did sum everything up nicely, but I was also a bit gutted about the direction that some of the characters took in this book. But that is Riley Sager for you, always keeping you on your toes, always keeping you guessing, and that is why we love him so much. That was actually the final Riley Sager book that I had on his backlist to read, which is so sad. So I've read all 8 of his books now, and I would say Final Girls ranks like quite near the middle of like his other books. So there's definitely some that I preferred more, but there's also definitely some that I preferred less. I would say it's pretty in the middle. But I did give this a 4.5, and that just sums up how amazing Riley Sager's books are, to say it's a 4.5 and still like in the middle of his backlist for me. I will be filming a full Riley Sager like ranking video of all of his books, so when that is available I'll pop it up here for you guys to go and view. But for the meantime, take Final Girls as a perfect autumn read. Really like creepy, spooky, tense, but without being paranormal. Brilliant. One book which I've been seeing everywhere in terms of like the it book of fall, and it isn't actually a new release, it's just super popular every single year. I don't know why, but it is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Now, don't get me wrong, my thriller girls, this is not a thriller. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat it. It's not. It's literally a rom-com based in autumn, but that is the point of like my autumn reading vlog. I wanted to get like a mix of like every genre in here. So far we've had like thriller, horror, thriller, and then now something more lighthearted, more like a palette cleanser. And you guys know I love my palette cleansers every single month, at least one of them. But I think this is definitely on the lighter side of a palette cleanser. I mean, I don't know. I am literally judging a book by its cover, but we'll see. As long as it's got like the nice autumn vibes, we're gonna go with it. So this follows our female main character, and she inherits or takes over the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and she goes to this like small town, very small town vibes, and then she meets, I believe, like the farmer that delivers their produce, and they like, I don't know, get talking. I don't know. I really just feel like this is gonna give Grumpy Sunshine, autumn vibes, really like nice, light, easy read, and it's just so what I'm in the mood for, to be honest. So I will get reading and give you guys a little update, see if this actually lives up to the hype of everybody talking about it. While I finish making my brew, let me just tell you about this book, okay? It is so incredibly low stakes. I'm so here for it. So our female main character is like, oh, I'm hearing noises in the upstairs of my perfect little cafe in this perfect little town. Please will you come and help and see what's there? I am so here for this right now. This is exactly what I need. This is literally going to be me all night. What a vibe. I also got the mugs back that I painted at the start of this vlog, and I've not opened them yet because I was so excited, but I really wanted to open them and show you. I'm so scared they didn't turn out good. Okay, not bad. Okay, I think I messed up by doing it white because there's like a few marks on it, but I don't know. Let me show you. And then I also did this like little cute heart at the bottom for like when you finish drinking, you're like, oh, cute. Okay, so I like that. I think I'm happy with that. And then the second one I did was the cauldron, but I have a bad feeling about this. I feel like the green that I did inside, it's not gonna come out very well. Okay, so my thinking with the inside was to put like the speckles in it with the green, and instead it's just turned out really dark. I don't think you can even tell that it's green. Oh, you can a little bit. So the thought process behind this was like I can obviously use it as like a mug for my coffee and stuff like during October, and then after I can put like a little plant in it. Like, let me show you. So I have this little guy who I've actually been able to keep alive for about 1.5 years. I'm honestly really impressed, but I feel like he needs repotting. The pot's quite tiny, so I thought I could repot him in here, like obviously not with this. No, that was the vibe. So next up, a bit of a surprise to this vlog, we're actually going to Mallorca for a bookish festival. I'm at the airport now. I'm heading there tonight, and then tomorrow bookish activities commence. So I thought, why not take you with me? I haven't actually managed to read that much of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, but I have a feeling I can read quite a bit on the plane. I'm hopeful, so I'll keep you updated. So today is the first actual day of FLEM, so I'm really excited to go to the talks. They also gave me this gorgeous little tote bag, which has been very useful because I forgot to bring a bag to put my books and my Kindle in. I mean, what a rookie mistake. But first, guys, obviously had to get a coffee, and I'm now heading to Dolly Alderton's talk. So just got back from Dolly Alderton's talk after having like a little wander around, a little bit of lunch, and I've just been thinking about like the types of things she says and like the contents of her book, and I just feel like they are actually so hard hitting, and there's a reason that she is a best-selling author. I'll put a couple of her book titles here so you can have a look and see if you've read them before. They're not my normal kind of books that I read. Obviously they're not thriller books. They are, some of them are contemporary fiction and some of them are memoir, but I think the topics are really important, especially as a single woman in her late 20s. I feel like these topics have just kind of hit a bit too hard, if anything. She's also just like the most incredible speaker as well. She's so like well presented, and I just had a really good time today, to be honest. So I'm gonna go and try and grab like an iced coffee now, and then I'm gonna head to Sheena Patel's talk. I'm also just absolutely loving how low stakes Pumpkin Spice Cafe is, honestly. I've been reading it, it's just this nice little rom-com, these two characters, little town, it's just giving vibes. I think if I wasn't reading this off the back of like 2 or 3 like really intense like horror thriller books, I wouldn't enjoy it as much, but I feel like it's because it's exactly what I needed. I'm enjoying it, if that makes sense. I literally feel so coordinated. Look at this pink straw on the pink bag. All I will say about Pumpkin Spice Cafe is the characters got together very quickly. It's very like insta-love vibes. So if you're not into that. I think the fact that I didn't get that much footage of me actually reading the Pumpkin Spice Cafe like sums up that there wasn't really that much to say about it. So here's what I thought. While this definitely was like the perfect autumn read, don't get me wrong, definitely was. There was like a full festival, there was like pumpkin competitions, like spooky Halloween kids dress up competitions, and it was very much like a sense of community. Like they were talking about like apple cider donuts and like everything like that. So great vibes, don't get me wrong, but the actual plot of this was just a bit like, eh. So while at first the insta love was kind of like, do you know what, I'm quite happy we've like got to the crux of this book quite quickly, it slowly wore off. And also frustratingly, I just don't feel like there was that much depth to this book. Like if you're gonna read this, like go in knowing that it is going to be a very light-hearted, very insta-love, very palate cleanser, you don't have to turn your brain on to read kind of book. Having said that, I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was amazing either. And I think it's because the only like romance adjacent books that I read are like Abby Jimenez books, which are just absolutely like blow you out of the water 5 stars. So I feel like my level of comparison for romance books is pretty on the floor. So maybe that's why it didn't impress me so much, I don't know. There was also honestly about 5 or 6 massive miscommunications in this book, and I just feel like they just need to chat, they just need to talk. It's not that difficult. I get that they've both had like trauma in the past, yeah, hasn't everyone? Do you know what I mean? One of the good things this book did do though is set up nicely for the second book, which is probably just like a marketing ploy if I'm being completely honest, but the next book, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, these characters that are in this, I now know who they are because they were like mentioned and like alluded to in the first book, which I think is quite good to be honest, because all that's doing is making me want to read this one even more. So to summarise, I ended up giving it a 3.5. I did like our female and male main characters. There was nothing wrong with them. I just think it was like a very average, very light, very easy, like fall book to read as like a really good palate cleanser in between like all these other dark, disturbing books which I'm reading, which fit really perfectly. I think if it wasn't for that, I probably would have given it a 3, but it's probably a 3.5 because I did really enjoy it because of that aspect. I also will caveat by this was quite a spicy book and I didn't anticipate that. I mean, mainly like at the end, but the end was kind of like spice for about 50 pages, like I'm not even exaggerating. It took a while to get there, but when it did, I was like, okay. And I actually listened to the last bit on audio, like sat at the airport waiting to fly back. So yeah, it was kind of intense, I'm not gonna lie. They were like calling my gate and I'm just like hearing all this like filth in my ear. I was like, okay. So that is what I thought to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. And for my final book of this vlog, final book, because I can't take any more spooky books after this one, guys, but I'm gonna go back to my A Box of Stories and I'm gonna read A Good House for Children. So this book follows a mother who moves into this like really creepy Georgian mansion, and her son like starts having these imaginary friends, starts seeing things, and she is like, am I going crazy or is this actually happening? And it's also told with some flashbacks to like 4 decades earlier, I think, of this woman who used to live there when I think it was like an orphanage, and she was going through like similar things. Obviously, I'm about to start, so that may not be like 100% accurate, but that is the vibe that I've got, and I'm really, really excited to read this because it feels like a little bit out of my comfort zone, but like still a thriller. Has anyone ever seen the film Eli? Because it's kind of giving Eli vibes, I think. And if so, I'm gonna love that. So let's dive into the last book of the vlog. So I'm about 80 pages in, and I have to say that the quality of the writing is absolutely incredible. Like, I feel like I'm so used to a popcorn thriller where topics aren't that complex, the thoughtfulness isn't that complex, like it's there for a good story, a good plot. This is like chilling, I will say. I feel like as well as it's been a good thriller, it's going to have a very like important message as well. I'm enjoying it so far. And this is like the beauty of picking up authors that you would never normally read. Like, I just love this. I feel like this book is really interesting because like the house itself almost feels like a character, but it also focuses on Sam, like in our present day point of view, who is a child, and he's like got this mutism, but he used to be able to talk and now suddenly he can't. And I feel like that is a massive focus of the book. So if that doesn't really go anywhere, I feel like I'll be a bit disappointed because surely that will tie up at the end. Otherwise, I don't really understand where that bit's going. I've almost finished A Good House for Children, so I thought I would come on and give you like a little update before I actually conclude. I absolutely love both points of view of this book. Like, both women are so incredible, and that has been like such a theme throughout this book, that it's very much like a feminist gothic story. I think I wouldn't describe this as a thriller, I don't think, unless there's like a plot twist or something like explosive at the end. I feel like it does kind of sit in like a gothic story, not romance, like just, I can't really, it's kind of like in the middle of all genres, if that makes sense. Gothic horror is the word I was looking for. I had to like really think about that, but it does have those themes like throughout, and I've really enjoyed it. I feel like it's not really my normal cup of tea, so it has like pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I mean, that is what A Box of Stories like aims to do, is to like just push you that little bit further. Obviously I am like a through and through thriller reader, but you guys know that these types of books are amazing, like as a bit more book adjacent, like thriller adjacent almost, not like a palate cleanser, because I think it's too, the themes are too deep for it to be a palate cleanser, but I'm having a really good time with it. So I'll check in once I finished. The writing in this is actually so beautiful. Is this what it says? Every story is a ghost story. All houses are haunted houses. Each person is in the spectre of their own feast, their wrath dodging their own footsteps. So I finished A Good House for Children, and I did really enjoy this, but I feel like it's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone, like to a point where I'm like, I think I'm gonna stick to what I know for the next few books. Not necessarily in a bad way, just like in a I know what I like kind of way. I will say I think I enjoyed like the present day point of view more. When I say present day, it was like 2017, 2018, but still supposed to be like the current timeline, because I feel like it's hard for me, and this is me and my tiny little brain, to relate to things that are set. So the other point of view is like the 1970s, and I feel like even just the way that that character spoke and like some of the references, I think I just prefer like present day stories. But obviously this was a dual timeline for a reason. You're talking about the same house 30 years apart with similar events, so of course that makes sense. This is literally so perfect for spooky season. I feel like if you read this at any other time of the year, some of the like eeriness may be a little bit lost on you, but it was extremely claustrophobic, like having the story set in that house, and I'm very glad I read it. In terms of my final rating though, I'm finding it hard to land on an actual star rating, because while I enjoyed it, it did push me, but at the same time, like that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm still gonna land on my star rating. I'm not sure yet. So that concludes the end of my ultimate spooky season vlog. I didn't actually expect to read this many books in this vlog, but I was just having such a good time, like chatting everything, like gothic horror, everything thriller, everything spooky, and just like taking you guys with me to do like my fun, like Halloweeny spooky activities. So for a quick recap of the books that we read, The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James was absolutely a fantastic, perfect blend of horror and thriller, definitely through and through thriller, but with some like paranormal elements, which were fantastic. I loved this book. We'll definitely check out more by this author, and I gave it a 4.5. I then read Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, which I was very excited to read, but definitely disappointed. I ended up landing on a 3. Maybe it would be more like a 2.5. I still haven't straight off my head, to be honest. This was good. There was more depth to a horror story than I feel like a lot of books tend to give, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. Just didn't really get on with it. Feel like it would have worked a lot better as a film. And then I read Final Girls by Riley Sager, and I am so glad that I did, and I'm so glad that I included this book in the vlog, because I love Riley Sager so much that like if he wasn't present in this vlog whatsoever, then there'd be something missing. This was fantastic. I really connected with our main character Quincy. I gave it a 4.5, and I would definitely recommend that you read this. I think it got a lot of hate, loosely, for being like a bit slower, but I just definitely didn't feel that. I don't know whether that's me, but I loved it. Then I read The Pumpkin Spice at Cafe by Laurie Gilmore, which I definitely enjoyed. Was quite like a basic story, but was definitely one that has got me in the mood for everything like fall and autumn, which was the purpose, I guess. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5. I did enjoy it, but I just felt I couldn't rate it any higher than that, because of like, it was quite a two-dimensional story, I think. I have higher hopes for The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which is the second book in this series, but I did enjoy this. And then finally, I read The Good House for Children, which I'm gonna land on a 3.5, because although the actual story was amazing and the way it was told was amazing, there was just some aspects for me that were just so not tied up. Like there's quite a few loose ends, and I do just feel like it was a little bit too far out of my comfort zone, but that's not a reflection on the book, that's more a reflection on me. So I think with this one, I would look into it yourself, like read the synopsis and everything yourself, and make your own call as to whether you would enjoy it or not. So I hope you loved coming on this spooky reading vlog with me. Let me know what you thought to the books that I've read, if you have read any of them, or if you'll be picking any of them up, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next time.